So here we go. I've had a coffee and a rest. I do have ME and CFS and fibro and arthritis and a degenerative spinal condition and lots of other things going on. So watercolour's beautiful on how it allows you to rest in that time. And I'm just going to say, I forgot to say, I sprinkled a little bit of table salt, you know, the really fine one, not the coarse salt, on just when it's got a sheen on the paper. And look at these beautiful textures that have been created from the salt. It works particularly well in that turquoise, but also the quinacridone golds come out beautifully. Look at those textures, and that I just love around the joy of watercolour, really. I'm just going to try and for me, these little white parts I quite like in it. I like the lack of uniformity, because nature's not uniform, and it's just, I just think it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sides around this path. So I've got some more clean water. Always change your water. If you're working on the hard pans, give them a bit of a wake up again, because you will need it. Make sure you've got some clean kitchen towel. I use loads of this stuff. I buy it in massive bulk because I use loads. So we're wanting to do some colour over this side, and then a colour over that, and then we'll do the path, and then we'll put the trees in. Now, unlike where we've up here, where we've ignored the trees, we're going to just paint around here if we can. I'm not going to paint around the base of these because I'll be able to go into them. Sorry, I live next to an airfield. But for this, I'm going to introduce, this as being my darker colours are going to go over here, because look, the sun's coming through this way in my painting just as my colours have come out. So I'm going to put some lighter colours here, and I'm going to put some darker colours up here, and see what happens, because that's the nice bit. So I'm going to start with, because this is where the light is, I'm going to start with a little bit of quinacridone gold across here, and this is just watered down in my palette, and then it's going wet on dry. So we did wet on wet for the backgrounds, and this is just wet on dry, popping in some lovely quinacridone gold to create the background. And then I want to add a little bit of this darker yellow green into there to just put a little bit of depth into the painting. So this is quite watered down, because again we're working light to dark in watercolour, so always put your lighter colours on first. And in watercolour you can get lighter colours in terms of their transparency by just putting more water into them before you put them on the paper, or you can put more paint, or it less paint into it to get it a bit darker. So, and I'm just going to add a little bit of a shadow colour. So this is a little bit of phthalo blue and turquoise mix. I'm just washing my brush out, and then I'm going to go back in with that beautiful green, because I want a darker colour near this foreground. And I'm just going to bring up some grasses around the base of that tree, and again we're just on the end of your brush. Just hold your brush as far down as you dare, because we're not trying to control the watercolour, we're working with it, which is a different. So can you see here we've got some puddles, so I want to lift those out. So wash my brush, take the water off my brush, and then just touch the edge of the puddle, wash my brush, water off my brush, and just touch that puddle. And it's like a thirsty brush, it's like a straw. Wash the brush, take the brush as many times as you need to. And I quite like that, that side, quite like the colours in it. And I'm going to just get hold of my table salt, and I will be able to show you, because it's just got a nice sheen on it. So okay, so as you can see, it's beautifully worked over here, the salt. I love the texture that this table salt gives, particularly in this sort of phthalo blue turquoise hue. Nice and subtle over here, as it will be under the canopy. So now I've mixed phthalo blue and the dusk yellow, the dusk yellow together, and it makes a little bit of a, oh, I don't know, a rich bluey green is the best way I can describe it. It's quite a thick consistency, because I want it to go over the top of some of these other colours. You could lift out this to make a bit more room for it, but I'm feeling a bit lazy today, so I'm going to give it a go. So I want, it's not an exact science, but I'm going to start around here and just run it up. I'll let my brush run up all the way up, and then I'm going to take off a little branch here as well, because that's what it looks like to me. Maybe a little one there, and then I might just see where this little lumps come. I might just run another branch up, and then maybe another one off here. Tree branches tend to sort of go upwards. Now you obviously don't want your base to be as thin as your tree. Oh, that's beautiful, look at that there. Let me just lift that up to the camera. Look at how that's linking in. Love that. What would Bob Ross say? Some happy accidents, I think. Right, so I'm just going to thicken this trunk here with that. Wash my brush. I had cleaned my water, but it now looks like pea soup. And then wet brush, no paint, just letting it blend into create the root structure, and a little bit of that colour down here because then it'll just look like it belongs. Wash my brush out again. Take the excess water off this time, and I'm just going to blend that in to the back of my painting. Wash my brush, excess water off, and then I'm just going to do the same here with that. So I'm just blending the tree roots. Wash my brush, water off, just blending it across, and as you can see you've got quite a nice dark. Now we said the light was coming this way, so I've washed my brush, I've taken the excess water off, and I'm just going to run my brush up this side of the tree. I've got too much paint on, so wash my brush, take the excess water off, pick up where I was at, same again, wash my brush, take the excess water off. And this just helps build a sense of 3 dimensions for the tree. Oops, daisy. I'll spread that a little bit that way. Can you see you get quite a nice sense? I'm going to do the same here. Just take a little bit off there. Get a sense of the tree being present. Now I'm going to go and do this one next because that's my next one in the distance. So a little bit more water in that mix for this one. Only a little bit more, and I'm going to start at the bottom again, and then I'm just going to run the brush up. Can you see it's a little bit more transparent? Yeah, run my brush up. Whoopsie daisy, sorry folks. I'm getting used to where the camera is. And I'm just putting another wash to darken this side of the trunk because the light's coming that way for that one and that way for that one. And I'm just going to put the base on this tree. I'm just going to and then I'm just going to run, oh, quite like that, a little bit of the colour down into the edge of the pathway. Wash my brush, take the excess water off, and then I'm just going to blend that up, and it's just using the side of my brush. I'm still holding my brush quite a long way down and just making those tree root shapes. I quite like how that light is on that tree, and I'm just going to get a little bit of quinacridone gold into there to reinforce that that's the light. Quite watery, and I'm just going to so here we are, after a little sleep. As you can see, the table salt particularly has done really well here. It's always a bit hit and miss as to what you want to do and what's going to work for you. So I'm going to just darken a little bit of this to just build a bit more of an edge. So I'm going to use this lovely little number 5 round brush, some clean water, and I'm going to use that dusk yellow with a hint of phthalo blue to make that deep turquoise colour. And you just put in a little bit. You can't see it around there, but you can here. can't see it, but you can here. All the way down here, you can see a nice lump of, you wouldn't be able to see it around there, but you can here. Oh my gosh, I'll paint my brush for around here. So I wanted to darken that edge, so I washed my brush off, you know the score by now, and then I'm just going to push it, so I hold my brush quite high up, yeah, I'm just going to push with a damp brush away into that wash that's underneath. Same here, push it away, just building that edge. Wash my brush off because I've got quite a lot here. And just pulling it away. Pulling it away. And there it's sort of there but not there, isn't it? And I'm just going to extend that a little bit into there. So the only other thing that we need to do is to put a shadow on, and it's quite scary, I always think, putting the shadow across, but honestly it is the shadows that make it. It is the shadows that make it. So I'm going with quite a dark mix of phthalo blue and the dust green, and I'm just going to run this shadow across it, which is joining the tree, and then I'm going to do a similar one here. It's going to come down and across and maybe up again. And actually, I might even just drop a little bit of pure phthalo blue into this shadow colour. And that gives it a sense of connection. I'm going to just run that up a bit as well. Gives it a sense of connection. Smoothing that away with a bit of water, and a sense of being in the space. Now I don't like how this is just bleeding that way, so I'm just going to move it across. But I do like the soft edges on that. If I didn't like that bit, I could always dab it with my trusty paper towel just to get that going. So I think we're not far off. Just going to come in with another darker bit here, and I'm just going to pull up some grasses along the edge of the path. Again, you're just building interest and texture in your exciting world. Don't like that, it's too dark. Just building a bit of interest on the forest floor. Nothing too skillful, really. If you're doing grasses, you can press on a bit of paper beforehand, or but don't too worried about them, because you can always wash them away. It's quite good. It's watercolour, they can just be washed away. And I do hold my brush nearer for doing little fine grass work and things, but I do find that it's more taxing on my brain. And those of you that live with chronic illness will know that that isn't always a good thing. So if you're looking like you've got a bit of stubble, you can just wet your brush and then just rub it along, and it will just sort of push it into the base of the painting. So here we are, it's nearly dry. I've just run a hairdryer over it. Try not to use the highest heat if you're on a hairdryer. It's just a case of taking your time still. Don't rush it, it's beautiful. And you deserve the time. The paper I've used is just some paper from Hobbycraft, which is a wholesalers, art suppliers here, and it's just their sort of practice paper. I do like it. It holds the water well. It lets my paint flow. And it doesn't buckle very much. You can see there's not much movement, even though I've used all this water. Now I tend to leave my table salt to dissolve, because otherwise when you brush it, or brush it when it's much later in the drying process, because otherwise if you brush it, you end up smudging the tiny bits of paint that are trapped underneath. If you can see here, there's some little bits of paint that are just in those salt crystals, so I don't really want to smudge that all over. So I've got a Zebra Sensations calligraphy pen on this one, and it's a number 2. And I do just like putting a little bit of line work on my paintings, because I think they add to it. So I've just started here, and I'm just thinking about building a little bit of definition and texture in the tree and the tree trunk. Not too much here because it's in the distance, but I do like a little bit of definition going up. I want to get that in there. And if you want some finer work, you can always go on to a finer pen. But it's a really nice and fairly easy way of just putting a little bit more interest and diversity maybe onto your paintings, and have a go, see if you like it. So I'm moving on to this trunk here, just building a little bit more texture, trying to remind myself to not just draw straight lines, because I'm really bad at that bit. I'm building a bit of depth and texture on it. And you can sort of bring a branch like that, can then look like it's coming from. I'm just going to enhance that branch that I'd put in earlier over the front of this one, just to push it away. I always think that I try and put more interest on the trees and the foreground, and you're not as worried about the ones in the background. So I'm going to put these grasses back in. A few little grasses across this path. And when you sort of drawing in the grasses, you have to remember to move the angle of your pen. A bit of salt going flying, because otherwise it sort of looks like they're regimented in the part of I don't know, an army or something. Army of grasses, and you don't want that. But I do think a few grasses around do draw the eye, particularly if you're building in the texture of the forest floor, and it's like a bit of an enchanted forest, isn't it? Quite like that this time of year. So I start November here. And what you're doing is you're not trying to obliterate what was there, you're trying to enhance what's there. So I'm at this point where, so I've done that base enough for me. You might want to do a bit more. Sorry, I forgot about moving. So I'm just going to put a bit more depth into this shadow across. I'm wondering what to do down here. Let's see. And then I'm going to work up onto this bank. So always trying to keep your pen moving, don't overthink it. Trying to remember not to draw in straight lines.